Okay, so my name is Teyonna Smith, and I decided to conduct my case study with a child who is in middle childhood, in the middle childhood developmental period. Specifically, I decided to focus in on the social developmental domain. In my observation, I focused in on an 8-year-old girl. I observed my participant at a family social function where she was around other kids that were close to her age. There were 5 boys and 7 girls. They all were in the middle childhood developmental period, but specifically, she was 8 years old. I observed her at a family social function. To start off in the text, we read about peer relations in middle childhood and how sharing, helping, and other pro-social acts increase during the middle childhood developmental stage. I observed this to be true during my observation, and I saw many pro-social acts that the child I was studying did. She helped various adults take things into the kitchen. She helped grab napkins, and she even helped hand out plates when it was time to eat to people as they were getting ready to serve their food. She also said grace for everybody before we were about to eat. She gave her little short "God is great, God is good," but she said grace for everybody, and I thought those that really stood out as pro-social acts that we're said to see in this stage. Even with the younger kids, she showed great acts. I observed her sharing her iPad to the younger kids. Not only did she share her iPad, it was one game in specific called Roblox that the younger kids didn't really know how to play, so she took the time out to explain to them literally what each and every thing was, what it did, how you play, the concept of the game, and things like that. Also in the textbook, when we read that aggression declines at this age, and that the greatest drop in aggression occurs with physical attacks. And when I first read this, I was like, no, kids at this age still are physically aggressive, but when you think about it, it's not saying that they just completely cut out all physical aggression. It says that this declines, so they're more inclined to not hit each other because they know that that behavior is bad. But it said in the textbook that middle childhood comes with a lot of verbal and relational aggression as children continue to form peer groups. And during my observations specifically, I saw this to be extremely true, especially with their peer groups. One of the children at the function was my observee's cousin, and there was an altercation at the trampoline for whatever reason, and they didn't resort to physical violence where they were hitting each other because they were upset with each other. They verbally attacked each other and said hurtful things to make one another cry or hurt the other one's feelings. I also observed that peer groups were definitely a major thing during my observation, but it's also a major thing that they talk about in the book during the middle childhood stage. Peer groups, as defined by the text, are collectives that generate values, standards for behavior, social structure of leaders and followers. And I'll get into the leader and follower part of the social thing that I observed, but that is definitely true for what I observed with my 8-year-old. In the text, it also says that peer groups organize on the basis of proximity. This means like your classmates, or the similarity in sex, ethnicity, academic achievement, popularity, and aggression. Also, during this function, I definitely observed that as more children started to come and it became the 5 boys and the 7 girls, that she definitely distanced herself from the boys and created her own little peer group with the girls. She stopped, they kind of separated, and it was like the boys over here, the girls over here. And she went with the girls and started to do her own things in that group. This is said to be a known behavior for this age group, and children also unjustly exclude other groups, other people from their groups. This I did see extremely so with her. The girls would go in the room and play their own little games, do what girls do. You play doctor, I'm gonna be the patient. Girls have a more imaginative spirit, so they went in the room, they were playing, and the boys would come in just to see what they were doing. Not that they really wanted to be involved, maybe they did a little bit, but the girls would make up excuses like, oh, we already started the game, you can't play, or you're a boy, you can't play this game, or this is not a game where boys can play, just unjustly excluding the boys from the group for whatever reason. And it said in the textbook that this behavior is often known in this age group, and children often use relational aggressive tactics. One other component of the social domain of development is peer acceptance. This refers to likability, which is the extent to which a child is viewed by a group of age mates, such as classmates, as a worthy social partner. So unlike friendships that we learned about in the textbooks, likability is not a mutual relationship, but it's a one-sided perspective involving one person's view of another. So based off my observation, I would say that the 8-year-old girl that I observed is a popular child, and we learned that in the textbook that a popular child is one who is well liked by their peers. And to go back to the peer groups and how it talked about leaders and followers, I could definitely say through my observation, I observed that she was the leader out of the group. And even though she wasn't the oldest out of the group, she definitely took the lead role in a lot of things that they were doing, whether it was games, what they were going to do, how they acted towards the boys, and their whole attitude the rest of the night. She kind of dictated. The textbook also talks about why one child is liked over the other, and why another child may be rejected. And it said that the majority of popular pro-social children combine academic and social competence. This means that they perform well in school, they can communicate with friends in a friendly and cooperative way, and solve social problems constructively. I can definitely say, and that this I definitely observed with her, she was able to resolve issues with her. Like with her and her cousin, that issue kind of escalated and they verbally attacked each other. But when it came to the younger kids, she was able to help solve problems. When it came to talking to her friends in a nice manner, she was able to do that. And she just came across as somebody that they liked, and of course that's why I deemed her, popular. One thing that also was highlighted to me that we talked about in the chapter with the social aspect of children in middle childhood was Selman's stages of perspective taken, specifically that during the ages of 7 and 12, children can step into another person's shoes and view their own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors from the other person's perspective. On one occasion, I observed that my observee was a mediator to situations that happened with the younger kids. There was a situation where they weren't sharing the game, and she stepped in and was like, hey, you guys have to share. When you hog the game and don't let him play, it makes him feel this way. So I observed that she was able to step into the shoes of the other little boy and explain it to the other little girl, like, hey, he feels this way. It's not nice to treat our friends that way. And that really stood out to me. The last thing that I kind of observed is gender typing. This is the child's understanding of gender roles. During middle childhood, this broadens and gender identities change as well. I saw this mainly that the girls wouldn't participate in certain things that the boys were doing because the boys were, I guess, being too rough, or the activities they were participating in weren't girl-like, or they were too masculine. So that was the only thing I kind of observed as far as gender typing goes. But overall, I definitely saw that my 8-year-old was definitely a popular child. The peer groups definitely play a big role in middle childhood and dictates how children act, because she pretty much dictated the attitudes of the whole group in a way, based off her being well liked and them taking to her personality. She kind of persuaded the group and led how things went. I also observed that physical attacks are lessened at this age group, and they use more verbal attacks rather than physical, and I did observe that to be extremely true. And in conclusion, this was my case study on my 8-year-old child who is in the middle childhood developmental stage, and I decided to break apart the social aspect of that.